Anime girls are
liked because of their virtuous and feminine personality traits.
No, they're not. If you're gonna use this as an example, you like this anime character because she appears weak. She appears demure. She appears at the mercy of the man that was currently talking to her in that way. Because she looks more likely to submit to your will. That is what you like about it. And that is a massive, massive example of the fetishization and sexualization of femininity that is completely negative. So this YouTube channel was brought to my attention by a chatter vertical square when I was desperately looking for content. So we were given why people like anime girls by Pax Tube. You know, on its face, this doesn't seem like a very political video. I've never seen it, so I don't actually know if it is. However, if we dig a little deeper into the Pax Tube, we've got the dark side of VTubers, and you can go any way with that. There's some ways you can go about that that isn't weird, right? But then we dig a little further, we see Attack on Titan's racial themes explored. Now, like I say, who knows which direction we go? Some people were saying that Attack on Titan was fascist propaganda. Other people were saying it was, no, actually anti-fascist propaganda. But then we keep going. So we've got abortion rebuttal, debunking pro-choice propaganda from ASAP Science. We've got the 2020 American race riots explained. And if you're gonna call them race riots, you kind of just gave the game away. Like, we already know what side of the fence you're falling on here. We've also got how pornography destroys your mind, which is interesting as well. So I thought, given all of this context after being given this video, we would watch the most important one that I can see, why people like anime girls, because I'm intensely curious. You know, I happen to find some anime aesthetic interesting. I like how it looks. You've got JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which is the art style, which is pretty cool. That's people seem to appreciate. There's some feminine men, there's some masculine men, there's some feminine masculine men. It's a good take. We got Mob Psycho 100, which has a super cool and unique aesthetic. Mob isn't an anime girl, you know, but I bring it up to say that anime has a variety of different art styles, but there's a lot of variety out there, and I, as an artist, really appreciate the art. Let's get into the video, why people like anime girls, by this assumed right-winger. I'm sure we'll have exceptionally good takes here.
This is an anime girl.
Are you sure about that? How do we know it's not a boy? Already bad vibes. I'd say anime person, gender non-specific, if we really wanted to be progressive. That's how you know they're a Nazi. Right off the bat. I'm just kidding. I don't know if they're a Nazi, but I mean, we're treading close given the videos that they've made. Anyway.
Average observer, this may look like just another animated character. But what if I told you that characters like this have been reaching international popularity?
No way!
Whether you're from Japan or not, the odds are that you yourself have seen someone online using an anime girl as an avatar.
That's crazy.
In this video on Pax Tube, we're here to find—
By the way, I don't know what we're about to get into here, but I will say that we do need a complete and total shutdown on anime avatars on social media until we can figure out what's going on, because there's a lot of sus shit going on out there, and it's all hidden behind the veil of an anime avatar, and frankly, I've had enough. So we might agree on that, but—
find out why these characters are so well liked. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about anime. Specifically, the anime and manga industry produced by Japan. This art industry has become very popular around the world, especially on the internet. Unlike Western animation, which typically gears itself toward children, the anime industry targets a wide variety of age demographics. Thus, you'll find fans who are adults and teenagers alike.
Which is based, by the way, because Western animation is essentially kind of a lost opportunity a lot of the time, in that there's a lot of different things you can do in animation. It's quite literally the medium of moving pictures that you can be the most creative in. There are literally no limits to what you can do, so long as you can deliver what you're trying to do through a drawing. If you have live action films, you can use CG, you can use, you know, practical effects, you can use post-production effects, green screens, all this kind of thing. A lot of the time, unless you have a massive budget, you're not going to be able to produce stuff that isn't like kind of uncanny or easily seen as being not actually part of the world. There's a lot of really weird CG that just doesn't really hit the mark in the way that you would want it to in a lot of live action. But animation doesn't have that kind of limitation, because as long as you can draw it, the world is your oyster. You've got no limits at all. And because because of that, the fact that we got Family Guy, American Dad, Big Mouth, Bob's Burgers, there are some decent adult-themed cartoons and Western animations, The Simpsons, yeah, out there, but there's a lot of cookie-cutter stuff. I think the reason for that is because a lot of Western animation simply is just profit-driven money grab kind of operation. But for Japan, it seems like there's just a broader culture of respecting drawing, painting, animation as a skill to be respected and heralded. There's more of a culture of people putting more of their time and labor into developing a higher fidelity art style with more opportunity to deliver incredibly moving, interesting, engaging visual experiences. That just doesn't exist in the West. Now, I hope that the West gets there, and there is a good amount of Western animation that does try to meet the mark, but we just started too late. It seems like we haven't caught up to respecting the medium like Japan has, or other places that produce similar levels of quality in their animation do. And that's a shame, but that's just how it is.
In recent years, Western companies have even attempted live-action adaptions of anime, with not much success.
Yeah, imagine my shock. And the reason why there's not much success is because of everything I just talked about. Because animation, the only limit is your imagination and the amount of labor and time you're willing to put into producing the art. When you try to translate a lot of the bombastic, over-the-top parts of animation that make anime very unique, and you try to translate it into a more limited format of live action, you're gonna be met with varying levels of quality that will almost never meet the same standard of the anime, and as we see here, usually fall devastatingly short, almost disrespectfully so.
But the rise of popularity of anime in the West is worthy of investigation, and it leads us to some telling conclusions.
Some telling conclusions. Let's see.
A key factor that stands out in anime's success is its female characters, who garner fan bases in and of themselves.
Now, this is true. There is also a substantial fan base of women, of men, gay men in specific, if we're about to talk about the sexualization of these characters, but obviously not to the same degree. Femininity, in a general sense, is fetishized, and there's a lot of negative aspects that come along with that. Women have been fighting this fight. Feminists have been fighting this fight since the dawn of time, since they're the primary demographic to exhibit femininity. Now that men, non-binary people, are more accepted in society, not fully, and there's still a lot of negatives that come with that, for being more feminine, we're still subject to that fetishization. So really, if we want to solve a lot of these issues, we work to defetishize femininity in a general sense, because it helps literally everybody. Anybody can be feminine. It is not relegated to women. So if we help the defetishization of femininity, we help everybody. But I don't know if this person really wants to do that. We'll see.
The term waifu, a variation of the word wife, is used commonly in anime circles to refer to one's favorite female character.
This is odd. I will only ever use the term waifu ironically. I don't know that it's necessarily like super bad to like have such a connection to a fictional character that you like refer to them in this way, have like figurines and, you know, the body pillows and whatnot. But there are certainly ways that can manifest that can be damaging to one's emotional state, to one's mental state, and even have impacts in their lives if you become super obsessive about these kinds of things. But in a general sense, I don't know how bad it is. The fringe cases are the ones you have to worry about.
It's become obvious at this point that anime girls have a special charm that viewers in the West are picking up on.
People like feminine and cute things. It's been known to happen.
Now, the most common explanation of why anime girls are popular is that they're cute.
True.
And that's very true. These characters are professionally designed to be feminine and attractive.
True.
There are entire animation methods devoted to their styles.
Yeah, I use side.
The physical traits that are highlighted in anime include flowing hair, large and detailed eyes, and slim or curvaceous bodies.
Not always, though. It is certainly the case that anime will select for this, but that's because society in a general sense selects for these aspects. There are a lot of people out there that will see feminine people that don't meet these characteristics and malign them, disparage them, think of them as less than. There's an entire internalized misogyny and internalized fetishization of femininity that feminine people have to deal with because of how much this is propagated in our society. And the work of feminism is to undo this, in part. So if this is a problem for you, then you should probably look into feminism for maybe some constructive ways to help address it.
These features are highlighted because they're widely accepted as beautiful. Some might argue that beauty is subjective.
It is.
But let's face it, there are ultimately physical traits that people are biologically wired to be attracted to.
Seems
Those
to be
creating
true,
anime
in
do
part.
not try to obscure this. It should also be noted that these female designs go hand in hand with clothing that accentuates their feminine features, such as ribbons, bows, or other hair accessories.
And the big reason for this, by the way, is because, like I say before, animation, literally the only limit is your imagination and ability to produce what you want to see, right? Because we're animating, we can accentuate the features to have massive eyes, big heads, no nose, small mouths, whatever type body you want. You can literally just make whatever you want. There are people that turn, like, planes into sexy anthropomorphized beings in art, for instance. Like, there's a whole world of stuff you can do. There's a lot of crazy shit out there. And obviously, if you're in a format, not in, like, the sexy plain way, but, like, the standard, you know, making a pretty woman in an anime, you're gonna take some liberties artistically to make these people look a certain way. And this is the same for even live action. A lot of makeup and practical effects will be used to accentuate these features as well in live action media. The problem is not unique to anime, the fetishization of femininity. It's not even unique to media. It's a thing that people in their real lives have to deal with as well. That's why people wear makeup, not only because it makes them look good, but because they understand that other people will think it looks good as well. And there are positives and negatives to that as well.
Now, of course, anime doesn't exist in a vacuum, so to understand its ascendancy in the West, we also need to look at what's going on in Western media.
Let's
in
go.
Western media, by contrast, there's been efforts to reduce character designs that even differentiate between men and women.
Which is kind of cool. Considering the absolute wealth of super accentuated feminine characters, the fact that we have gender non-conforming characters, pretty cool in my opinion. That kind of representation, very helpful for people to feel good about themselves, see themselves in media when they may not otherwise, and helps to de-fetishize femininity in the public eye. It's a good thing.
Like this to the fat acceptance and androgynous movements. But truthfully, these two movements are simply two branches of the entire source. That source is feminism.
Oh boy. I think we're gonna miss the forest for the trees on this video, my friends. But let's see. I've been having a lot of assumptions, and you know, if I'm wrong about a lot of these assumptions, then that's my bad. I'll take the L on that. It's just the videos I'm seeing here in the other videos that this person has made leads me to make these assumptions. I'm happy to be proven wrong. We'll see.
Which has come to utterly dominate Western media.
Okay.
Hollywood and television studios consistently identify more as feminist and liberal than the general public.
Okay.
This is then reflected in their portrayals of women. In a great irony, feminism rejects the value of femininity and works instead as a conduit to make females masculine.
Femininity equals women, women equals femininity. That's the grug take we're getting here. If your argument is that feminism is actively working as a conduit to make women more masculine, and because of that you think that makes women suffer in some way, you've got it backward, my friend. Feminism is about the liberation of women and the equality for women on par with men who are the hegemonic power holders of society. Limiting women to only strict feminine representation is limiting women's ability to exercise their individual liberty. If you are pro-personal freedom, representation in media for people being gender non-conforming is a pro-liberty thing to do. It is a pro-liberty argument. I don't see how we're painting this like a bad thing, unless you think that women have to be feminine and the media portrayal of them as masculine is negative because it makes, you know, women think that femininity is bad or whatever, which I don't think is actually true. I don't think any woman out there will see a masculine representation of a woman and be like, oh, I'm not supposed to be feminine. I'm supposed to be masculine instead. Like, nobody's thinking this.
Biological differences between the sexes are seen as a conduit. In a great irony, feminism rejects the value of femininity and works instead as a conduit to make females masculine.
By the way, it doesn't reject the value of femininity. It stops the value of femininity being overvalued when it comes to women and their ability to express their personal liberty. Currently in society, women are expected to be very feminine, which in a lot of cases limits their personal freedom to do what they want, to be how they want, to look how they want. So feminism is attempting to make femininity equal to masculinity in regards to how women are allowed to express themselves, which gives women more liberty to be the people they want to be without any kind of scrutiny. That is a pro-liberty argument. That is a feminist argument. But obviously, it seems like this person does not understand this, and I think we're about to get into why. The vice president of these United States is a female. How are they not in control? I'm pretty sure you're trolling. But if you're not trolling, then I'm sorry to hear that.
Differences between the sexes are seen not as something to be celebrated, but as obstacles to be destroyed.
Not true. How are they seen as obstacles to be destroyed? So first of all, biological differences don't inherently tie into aesthetic representation. Biological differences, the fact that people born with a certain set of chromosomes will have a penis and another set will have some breasts and a vagine, doesn't mean anything about their aesthetic representation at all. The only reason it does is not intrinsic to biology, but is intrinsic to societal conceptions that we have invented. We, as a society, because we live in one, have decided that this is how these people with these genitals or chromosomes, this is the way they're supposed to be expressing themselves. And that's the only way that's allowed. So because we invented that, and because we can see that there's a lot of negatives associated to forcing that onto people like society likes to do, we can also change that and make it so that people have more freedom to express themselves how they see fit. But if you're not for freedom, if you're not for personal liberty, then I can understand why you might be upset about that.
These natural differences are thus downplayed, and studios put ridiculous efforts into making female characters look and behave like their male counterparts.
And that's a problem how? So like I say, the amount of masculine women in media is infinitesimally small compared to the abundance, the absolute gourd of plenty, like the magician's infinite fucking box of overtly feminine and fetishistically feminized characters in media. So even though now, in the year of our Lord, 2020 to 2021, we are now seeing more media representing masculine women, does not undo all of the shit we've already seen.
Meanwhile, this kind of feminist influence simply does not exist in anime studios, and that's played an
And that's a good thing to you? The fact that women, and especially little girls in anime, are overtly sexualized and their femininity is fetishized to the point where it's borderline criminal in a lot of cases, especially with underage depictions, that's a good thing to you? Curious. Very curious.
So it's clear that the physical appearance of anime girls is a main factor that makes them popular in the current West. But I will submit to you that there is an even greater factor at play that goes far deeper than physical appearance.
Uh-oh. I'm gonna take a swig before this one.
Let's look at how Maki from the anime Love Lab responds to receiving a compliment from a boy.
You think you can get away with mocking people just because you're a little cute? What's with that reaction? That is all kinds of weird. That's the first time a boy's ever called me cute. This is an exceptionally exaggerated reaction. This is not often something that will happen in real life. I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but anime isn't real life. Because it's animation and because it's media, the people making these productions will be hyperbolic and go over the top because they can, because it is more interesting to the viewer. But it is not a one-to-one representation to real life.
Take note of the traits that are being displayed here.
Which is?
This leads into the point. Anime girls
the point. We're getting to a point here. Anime girls are
liked because of their virtuous and feminine personality traits.
No, they're not. If you're gonna use this as an example, you like this anime character because she appears weak. She appears demure. She appears at the mercy of the man that was currently talking to her in that way. Because she looks more likely to submit to your will. That is what you like about it, even if you're not going to admit that. And that is a massive, massive example of the fetishization and sexualization of femininity that is completely negative.
Anime girls are liked because of their virtuous and feminine personality traits. A female character portraying bashfulness like this is common in anime, but
this person has never interfaced with an actual real-life woman. Ever. I guarantee you that. It has not happened. His mother didn't grow up with her, only grew up with his dad. I'm telling you. Grandma, she's not in the picture. Never interfaced with an actual breathing woman before. The most that he gets is when he snuggles up to his 1,000-year-old lolly, Dakimakura. That's the only contact and interfacing he does with women.
All but extinct in Western media. Generally, these characters demonstrate attributes that make them ideal candidates for wives, including
Oh no! What are you talking about, man? Why is an ideal candidate for a wife something you're looking for in the depiction of women and girls in media? Now, I can understand being an adult and finding an adult in media attractive. This is a pretty universal concept. But I am under no illusions that I'll ever be able to have a wife that is one of these characters.
modesty, and a positive view of marriage and children. It's
a positive view of marriage and children. When I think of a woman whom I am very attracted to, I find women and femininity in a general sense very attractive. And I'm not ever thinking about, oh, this person, do they have a positive view of marriage or children? Because I don't see the women that I'm attracted to as an object to be conquered and owned. That's not what I'm doing when I think about, oh, wow, that's a pretty woman. Maybe I could talk to her, become friends, and maybe more than that later on. But maybe I'm just built differently. Not an anime viewer, but something tells me this guy's examples are a little generalized and cherry-picked. Yes, but not in total. Because unfortunately, the fetishization of femininity and women is rampant in not only across the world, divorced from media, but also in media and also in anime. So there's a lot of examples to pick from.
Especially in the slice of life genre, to see characters outright fantasize about marriage.
And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having an interest in marriage and wanting that to be like one of your major life goals, is finding a person whom you connect with and love so much that you're willing to spend the rest of your life with them, and you're willing to put pen to paper, get the contract that says you're married, get the ring, do the whole ceremony. Nothing wrong with that. Unless you interpret it as, I now own my wife, which, I don't know, man. You haven't said it yet, but you're kind of alluding to it. It's a bit odd. That's all I'm gonna say. Like, you'll notice that in a lot of overtly fetishized depictions of feminine characters and women in media, they're portrayed as like helpless. Like they would literally starve and die if left to their own devices, and they require a man to be able to care for them, or else they will literally expire. And that's what these people want to be. Except these people, I would imagine this person who made this video can barely care for himself. Look at his fucking room. It's probably full of leftover food boxes, mold, a bunch of cans, piss bottles, doesn't make his bed, clothes on the ground. Like, this man can't even own his own life, and yet he's trying to own somebody else's.
Characters are written this way.
Clean your room, bucko. You'll feel better, I guarantee it.
Intentionally, because not only do these virtues make them good love interests, but they're also admirable traits in and of themselves. I've noticed that chastity in particular is a value that anime likes to highlight. This applies
except when they're sexualizing children, and also women. Now, they use it as a fetish, almost. The way that chastity is brought up in a lot of anime is like, oh no, I want to be a virgin until I'm married, and you're kind of putting me in a position where that might not actually happen, and you might take my chastity and virginity away from... It's usually in that kind of a way, which is, once again, the fetishization of women and femininity in an incredibly negative context. I don't know, man. A little sussy-wussy.
Importantly, even female protagonists that are designed in a sexualized way are written carefully to have these virtues. I may not be a fan of some of these designs because they stride the line towards sexploitation, but they're...
I would ask you to pause Pax Tube, take a moment to reflect, look in a mirror, and kind of analyze the way that you engage with this media, given all of the things you've said so far. But I'm relatively certain you don't own a mirror for fear of the financial repercussion of having to continually replace it when it breaks. So maybe I just shouldn't have said anything.
As one example of this, in the anime Overlord, the character Albedo is revealed to be a virgin, despite her sexualized appearance.
That's crazy. It's almost like people who are virgins are allowed to portray themselves sexually. It's almost like asexual people still like to look sexy, to be hot. Does this person think that asexual people are all ugly and don't put any care into their appearance? Guarantee you it's not the case. God, this audio balancing.
It's a rarity to hear a character say something like this outside.
Wait, I'm sorry, I don't have any experience with men.
It's a rarity to hear a character say something like this.
Okay, dude.
Now, these female characterizations draw a stark contrast to not only Western media, but Western society itself.
Okay.
Currently in the West, values like modesty, chastity, and romantic exclusivity are increasingly treated as unnecessary or antiquated.
Even if that were the case, the status quo currently, in spite of those terrible forces trying to force more individual liberty onto the feminine people of this country, in spite of that absolute tidal wave, that media onslaught, it is still the status quo that women and feminine people are expected to be modest, are expected to be demure, are expected to represent themselves exactly the way that you like them to be represented given everything you've said in this video. And it is simply media depictions of people that go outside of those very strict bounds you'd like to keep them in that are making you mad. For every masculine woman you'll find out there, it's almost like a shiny Pokemon in the States. Like, this is not going to affect your personal life, especially not for Pax Tube, considering he's not going to be interfacing with any women, but in a general sense, for the standard viewer, it's not going to affect your personal life. For every masculine woman out there, there is still going to be maybe double, triple, quadruple the amount of feminine women. Not only women who society has pushed on them to be super feminine, and that's why they're feminine in part, but also women who like to be feminine. And it's their goddamn God-given right to do so, brother man. It's not gonna be a problem for you.
This is in spite of the fact that most research shows that these things are critical to developing healthy long-term relationships. A 2019 research...
I'll give you a shocking idea. People can exist without ever wanting to be in a romantic or sexual engagement with another person, and society is not gonna fall apart. Because for every aromantic, asexual person out there, there will still be breeders out there pumping out more humans.
Research report from the Institute of Family Studies found that traditionally minded and religious couples reported the highest level of relationship quality and sexual satisfaction. Other research has shown that women who engage in promiscuous sex are more likely to have failed marriages, more likely to become single mothers, more likely to get an abortion, and less likely to report personal happiness than women who had zero sexual partners prior to being married.
It's almost like the fact that you may have sex increases, in a general sense, increases the fact that you might be the father or mother to a child at some point, or get an abortion if you're not ready to become one. Everybody, not just women, have to deal with this. Now, women have to be the ones to be the incubator for the child, but this is not unique to the concept that you're trying to talk about. This will happen regardless of societal expectation or ideas or doctrine or ideology, simply because of the mechanics of how sex works. But I suppose I wouldn't expect this person to understand how sex works.
It truthfully turns out that the sexual revolution and free love were an utter disaster.
You think so?
But in spite of this, most of Western society continues to double down on normalizing promiscuity. Fortunately, though, things aren't all bad just yet, as surveys do show that people say that those with more than 2 past sexual partners are undesirable for long-term relationships.
That can change, by the way. The more society moves toward being more accepting of people just being in more engagements than just saving themselves for marriage, the more that this will go down. I would imagine the primary reason why this survey data that has not yet been cited, I don't know if it will be after I unpause, the reason why this is a statistic that we're citing here is because of the society we've built. We can change that. We can stop forcing upon people to live a certain way. And as soon as we unshackle people from this regressive ideology and allow them to be more free and express more liberty in their lives, the less and less this will become a problem.
The problem is that Americans report having between
It can change.
4 and 7 past sexual partners.
This guy's just mad that he hasn't had one yet. What a shame, Den. This is a long way to tell me you've never felt the warm touch of a woman, my friend.
Has created an extreme gap between the kind of person
And actually, I know I'm shitting on this guy a lot, and I think it's my God-given American right to do so, brother. But it actually does make sense to me that there are men out there like this person who are very excited of the idea for women to be chaste, to be virgins, to not have had much past past sexual experience because they do not feel confident in their ability to match up to those people that person had engagements with in the past. It is born out of insecurity. That is the main problem here, and that's what this whole rigmarole is going on about, and that's what it's trying to accomplish, is explain away my insecurity as Pax Tube and enforce a way of life on women that allow me to no longer feel insecure, rather than exerting some personal responsibility and self-discipline and trying to better yourself. Make yourself a better candidate for other people, even if they have more people to compare you against. Make yourself, a more efficient human being, a more happy and productive person in your own life that will often make you more desirable. I'm just gonna force other people to do what I want so I don't have to do anything on my own. Because I'm insecure as hell as Pax Tube, as a conservative, as a right-winger. I'm insecure in my ability to pleasure a woman. I'm insecure in my ability to match up against previous sexual partners that this person has had. So the easiest way to get around that is to just force them to not have those sexual partners.
People want a long-term relationship with, and the kind they can actually choose from. Furthermore, the average age people first report having sex is 17.
Damn. I first had sex, my freshman year of high school. How old are you then? 15? 16? Something like that? I don't fucking know. I've been out of school for a long time. It was an interesting experience. And I don't know that it made me any worse of a person. I don't know.
Now add in the fact that data shows marriage has a negative correlation with number of sex partners. That is, the more sex partners a person has, the less successful their marriage is likely to be.
I wonder what that might be. Are we given reasons as to why that is? Or are we just going to assume it's because of some turmoil that is involved with usually the woman having multiple sexual partners in the past rather than the man? I wonder why that would be. I could see trouble on the man's end insofar as he's insecure about his wife having multiple partners. I don't know. That data does nothing for me because we need to know why those people report less successful marriages.
It's created a situation where the average person has to choose between settling for a spouse with many past sexual partners, which they don't
Settling, by the way.
want, or
Which they don't want, in your estimation, as society has said they should be.
dropping the idea of marriage entirely. A horrible situation through and through.
It is really funny, too, because, this person's main problem with all of this is that the stranglehold that men have had on regulating and controlling women, feminine people, and how they express themselves is slowly being loosened by, a fraction of a fraction of a fraction. And even that is too much for this person. Even that is sending off alarm bells and hinting to this person that Western civilization is doomed. Just that super tiny sliver where we're seeing gender nonconforming representations of women in media, that's enough for this people to be like, oh, fuck! Oh shit, I can't own women as property anymore? This is fucked up. That's what people like me, men, have enjoyed since the dawn of time, and there's a little tiny crack in the wall that might easily just be filled in with toothpaste, and that's enough for me to be upset about it. That's enough for me to feel some type of way about it.
Meanwhile, rather than trying to reverse this, Western media has led the charge in exacerbating this crisis. Studio executives practically fall over themselves to put forward female characters that are sexually promiscuous and masculine.
By the way, men in media are almost always sexually promiscuous, by the way. So obviously this is about anime girls, so I don't know if he's going to talk about men and how they're depicted in media. Men are often shown to be promiscuous and celebrated for doing so. Now, obviously this guy doesn't understand that much outside of media depiction, because he doesn't understand women outside of media depiction, and he also doesn't have enough experience as a man in that context in real life to understand what it is to be that way, to have multiple partners. So I don't know if he would have much to say about it, but...
Example, in the show Game of Thrones, nearly every single female character is written to either be involved in numerous sexual relationships or to have no interest in men whatsoever. Other shows that focus on teenage relationships are rife with premarital sex, abortion, homosexuality, and marriage being treated as a backwards institution.
Like you played yourself, really. What do you expect a demographic to do after for the longest time they were subjugated, expected to be chaste, expected to be waiting for a man to find them and want to marry them in order to have sex, for criminalizing and making illegal abortion? How do you expect people who have been under the control of others and had their own personal liberty restricted for so long to act in a situation where they understand that it doesn't have to be that way? Obviously, you're gonna see people go to the other end of that spectrum, even in an extreme sense, where there are people who are very excited to be very promiscuous, have multiple sexual partners, be very loud and excited and proud to represent themselves in sexual ways, to actually have freedom in their lives and not be treated as pawns or toys for other people. As a person who very much values the freedom of the individual, I don't understand how you can have any of these takes. I don't get it. But maybe that's just me.
So with both Western media and society increasingly abandoning both feminine and monogamous traits, anime has done the opposite. It's now effectively one of the last reliable places young men can look to find idealized female portrayals who would make good wives.
My Japanese waifu. Oh no, I gotta get my mail order wife. That's why I'm a libertarian guy with an Asian wife, because I have a fetishized and not correct idea of how Japanese women in real life are, because the only engagement that I have with women, especially women from Japan, is anime, where they are highly sexualized and fetishized.
Thus, it shouldn't be surprising at all that it's garnered a large male audience. Now, a lot of anime fans...
like absolutely sexualizing and fetishizing femininity. You know, the things that men are taught to enjoy, no way they would flock to that kind of thing. But it's almost like men also enjoy representations of women in media that are overwhelmingly super feminine, not these masculine cherry-picked pieces of media that are incredibly new and modern.
May recognize this fact implicitly, but not actually be cognizant of it.
What a fucking
There are,
loser.
after
Holy
all,
shit.
many anime fans who are degenerate, and I think part of the reason these people
That's literally you, my friend. Don't post your own L's. I don't know why you would do this to yourself.
exist is because they were never able to recognize what makes anime girls unique in the first place. And while I'm sure someone can find exceptions to what I've said in this video, they are just that, exceptions. To draw things to conclusion, the anime industry produces some beautiful works that we, as Westerners, can learn from. None of this is to say that anime is perfect or that Japan is a perfect country. All things have their flaws. But what's clear here is that anime's female portrayals show feminine nature in a positive light that feminist media never can or will. In essence,
Translation. I got the incel dictionary out. Feminist media is actually giving representations of women being allowed to express themselves however they see fit as individual free humans in society. And that is contrary to what I think should be the case, which is all women being weak, demure, objects for men to conquer and own. That might sound like hyperbole, but I think I've substantiated that time and again in this video.
It exposes the current cultural crisis in the West in both media and public attitudes.
The crisis. Dude, the crisis, because 1% of all media is now depicting women as allowed to be androgynous, masculine, or just express their sexuality in still a feminine context. God damn, what a crisis, dude.
Has to look to a foreign medium to find virtuous female portrayals. That's a serious problem. I ultimately hope this video helps people see-
It certainly is a serious problem, where you have such a worldview that is so skewed, naive, and uneducated that you have to retreat to foreign media to get your preconceived notions of how women should be reaffirmed, even though you could literally find that from Western media. But hidden in here is also a fetishization of Asian people, of Asian women, of Japanese women. But we didn't get into that, I don't think.
See the value of virtue and the void that's left when people turn their back on it. Now, there may be some things I forgot to mention, so feel
like the overt pedophilic tones of a lot of animation and the way they portray women and girls.
Free to leave your views in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, please consider
subscribing. But we wouldn't bring that up as a negative. That would be super easy too. In the context of this video, you could be like, so here's all this good shit that this person is saying that anime does for representations of women, but here's also a bad thing to make this kind of seem more balanced and more of like a centrist take. Like the bad thing is that, oh, sometimes they go too far, especially when it comes to prepubescent, you know, girls. But we didn't do that. I don't know how much of a problem this guy has with that, actually. I'd be curious to know, but he didn't get into it, so.
Subscribing and clicking the notification bell, as it really helps me to...
Fuck you, actually. I'm not doing that shit. The fact that this has 68,000 views is absurd to me. Especially with this fucking subscriber count. Especially considering the absolute void that this video was. It had no useful information in it, outside of my ability to parlay the garbage in here into actual substantive critique. That's the only utility that this video has. Person says, anime feels like a glimpse of what life should be like. A lot of anime addicts are degenerates, but for me, watching anime really fuels my passion for life. The real world can just be too ugly to bear sometimes. Yet it depends on what you like about the anime. There is a lot of anime that don't fall into these tropes that are intensely beautiful depictions of media. You have things like Howl's Moving Castle, for instance, which is a critique of war and the disaster that has been wrought upon our climate and world. That's an example where the film portrays women as being strong, as being independent and ability to care for others even, which is not a subservient role. It's actually a dominant role to care for other people. Those people literally require you to live. That's why you care for them. That's what women do for their children and their husbands. That's what this person wants them to do for, the rest of their life with them, is to literally care for them because this man can't care for himself. There's a lot of beautiful media out there that comes from Japan. But what we've decided to cite in this video is, Japan has not, at least for the media this person consumes, stepped off from the fetishization of femininity and the idea that women are just objects for men to, conquer. And that's a problem for him for some reason. Oh my God, I'm not reading all that shit. Sorry to hear that, or happy for you, but...
When a huge portion of your male population has to look at a foreign medium to find virtuous female portrayals, that's a serious problem. Through the feminist gatekeepers of Western media would say, the serious problem here isn't that the plebs have to look elsewhere, it is that they are able to look elsewhere and have success in finding such portrayals at all. It's much easier to serve up stale slop when the target has been heavily
What the fuck are we talking about? Do you understand the absolute breadth of media that's out there? Maybe don't limit yourself to the things that you see advertised on TV. There are a lot of films out there that don't get the same airplay as your favorite, Keanu Soy Chungus, Marvel, thanks for the gold, kind stranger, milady tip shit. Great video. Something I think you maybe could have talked about more is about how anime has plenty of examples of strong women, but doesn't make them overly masculine like Western movies. They don't do that either! What do you mean? What Western movies are making strong women overly masculine? There are strong women that are feminine in media. There are even overly masculine women in anime. What are you talking about? These people are incoherent. What a shame, man. This is simply true. I like women when they're being women. Yeah, and that's fine. You can select for women that are the way you like them to be, but you don't have to force everybody to be the way you want women to be. That's antithetical. That's authoritarian. That's totalitarian. Trying to force other people to be how you want them to be? Crawl out of your own fucking asshole, man. The world doesn't revolve around you. The sun doesn't revolve around the earth. Anyway, the irony of feminism is that it displays traditional feminine women as bad and tries hard to make women more like men. Basically, they're saying the men and masculine traits are better and that actually feminine and female traits are worse. No. The problem is that people like you, people that share your ideology, have overvalued extreme representations of femininity for women. Feminists are hoping to make it more equal so that women have more freedom and liberty to express themselves how they want to. So that women, while it's equal here, can still be feminine, even overtly so if they want to, but if they don't want to, they could be somewhere in the middle or on the other side in the masculine direction. That is the idea. We're trying to undo the garbage that you people have done. Absolute dog shit. These people are lost. Listen, Jordan B. Peterson wasn't good enough. Joe Rogan, not good enough. These dudes need a daddy. These dudes need to be the subjugated woman that they want their women to be. Because they need to be taught. They need somebody helping them live. They need a caretaker. They need a dom to make them actually live lives where they aren't absolutely destitute and feeling like shit all the time because of the way they've allowed their tiny little brains to be warped by societal perceptions of how people should be. Unironically, these people need daddies. People always talk about, these promiscuous women, these super sexual women, they just have daddy issues. My friend, you're lost. You probably can't even take care of yourself. Where the fuck is your dad at? Come on now. It's all projection, like always. Well, that was fun. Thank you very much, Vertical Square, for giving me this video, because this was exceptional. This was a great video for me to absolutely just drop my pants and dip my fucking dick into. Holy shit. God damn. This video's counter-call is Lonely Lucid. You hang out my Twitch chat on a regular basis, and I'm glad you finally won one of these. Appreciate the continued support. If you'd like to be the next Conure call-out, all you gotta do is follow me on Twitter, @ConureC, retweet my video links when they go live, same as it always is. Remember to subscribe to the channel, put all notifications on when you hit the bell, leave a like. If you'd like, comment some righteous condemnation of weebs down below, and have a great day.